What's up, future engineers? So you want to get into UBC Engineering, but you don't know what to do, or you just need extra advice on how to get in and what to put on your application? Well, you're in the right place, as we're in the first episode of UniTalks, where we're going to be talking about anything related to academics or engineering, and I'm just going to give my personal advice on certain things on those topics. Alright, in this first episode, we're going to be talking about how to get into UBC Engineering and some tips and advice on things I wish I did back in the day and the things I did well in. Currently, I just finished my second year in biomedical engineering, and I just got into the systems and signals specialization. So excited about that, but in this episode, I just wanted to give my advice. In this video, we're just going to be focusing on 4 main things that I think are really important for the application process and what you really need to focus on when you're trying to apply to UBC Engineering. The first one being our grade requirements, number 2, extracurriculars, number 3, personal projects, and number 4, personal profile. Alright, I think after focusing on these 4 things, we'll tackle the main solutions. Before we start this video, make sure you guys like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, helps me put out more videos out, as I know I have people that really want to see the videos. And leave a comment down below on what type of videos you want to see in the future, or just any questions in general. Alright, now let's get straight to the content. Now first, let's go over the bare minimum requirements. These are just necessities, and they are the bare minimum, and it won't put your application at a competitive advantage, but it's good to know the requirements, and then so you know that you need to get above that to have a competitive advantage. So we'll go into Canadian students first. I chose my province, and I'm going to select my degree, Applied Science Engineering. As we see here, the requirements are listed. Graduation from high school, minimum of 70 in grade 11 and grade 12. These are just bare minimum as well. So if you're from BC at least, aim for above 90%. I had a 92 average myself, and I actually got accepted a little bit later too. So above 90 something is definitely required. If you're from other provinces, there is a scaling factor that takes place. If you're from Alberta or Ontario, they scale it a bit better because their high school system is a bit harder. But as we see, we'll notice as a trend, the main courses that are requirements are English, pre-cal, so some sort of math, a chemistry, and a physics. Same thing for grade 11, but you also need a language. That includes French, Spanish, etc., etc. Same thing, we'll go into international high school students. I selected India, as a lot of my subscribers are from India. Same thing, select a degree, and we see again math, chemistry, physics. There also is, if you're an international student, the English language competency. So you have to ensure that you take the test, and you need to hit at least that minimum score. Of course, higher the score is the better. The link is in my bio for all these links, so you can follow along. And lastly, IB student, it's the same thing. It's going to be a math, chemistry, and a physics, and of course you probably need a higher score to be more competitive as well. I put my scores here just so you guys can have a reference of what the scores that I got to get in. My chemistry is probably my lowest, and also my pre-calculus 12, that brought my average a bit lower, but overall I had above 90% average, and this got me into UBC. Try to do your best within school, and if you're really struggling, make sure you reach out to that teacher and ask as many questions as you can. And if you really do need a tutor, reach out to them and try to learn as much content as possible, because grades are really important within the application process, and really do your best to try to learn as much as you can, because it just helps your application a lot. Now we're going to be talking about extracurriculars. Now extracurriculars are really valued because they show and highlight things that your grades can't really tell you about. Like, are you a leader? Do you have personable skills? And are you really interested in the things that you do? And do you go out to actually try to pursue those things? I think there are 3 main categories of extracurriculars that I would focus on. The first one being engineering related extracurricular activities. So that would be things such as robotics clubs, programming clubs, engineering design teams, or anything of that nature, like mechanical teams. I think really would stand out in an extracurricular section, just because you're focused on the things that you want to do in your degree, and it shows that you take initiative in your learning and all those kind of things. I think it would have been helpful, so I wish I did that back in the day, and I think it would just look really good on the application and on the personal profile. and it also helps your learning. And number 2 are the areas that I would call personable skills, leadership, and these are things such as student council, charity work, coaching, teaching, tutoring. There's numerous things that you could focus on here, or anything related like community improvement projects. These things show that you are a leader. And in engineering, you're going to be working in teams all the time. The first thing that they tell you in AppSci 100 or 101 is you're with your team and you're going to be working on multiple projects with them. And if you're not able to communicate with your team, you're not able to communicate with in your presentations or your projects, I think you'll really fall behind, and it won't look good on your resume if you don't have these skills. So I think having these skills within your personal profile will make it look good to the admissions board, and they'll see like, oh, this person's the leader, this person has done these things, this person can present, and this person can work in teams. And I think although it doesn't seem maybe that important as much as grades, but it has its importance in the field, especially engineering. Which I think is really important to focus on. And the last extracurricular activity would be hobbies based and things that you're really passionate about. So you could be really passionate about programming, engineering, design, and all that kind of things. But for me personally, I was interested and pursued sports for a long time. So I pursued basketball. Basketball was one of my main things. I had multiple hours in basketball. But I also put these into my personal profile to show like, hey, this is something I was passionate about. I put this much energy into it, and these were the outcomes, and I put that on my resume. And these are things that are important as well. These can stand out. These are transitional skills that the admissions boards could see, say like, oh, this person worked really hard in this certain thing. Maybe it could transfer into engineering as well. Everybody is different, and they may focus on different things, but make sure you highlight these certain qualities. If you can get that engineering extracurricular activity, do that. And you need also a leadership extracurricular activity, and then anything that's related to your hobbies or something you're passionate about is of course your extracurricular activity as well. Personally, I had quite heavy extracurriculars, and the first one was basketball. I would play competitively in high school and in club, so I spent many hours there when I put it on my personal profile. Number 2, I was in student council like throughout high school, and I was also president in grade 12. So that showed my leadership section and showed that I could work in teams and lead a team. I was also involved in smaller schools and smaller projects within the school. And also, lastly, I was coaching basketball on weekends and also on weekdays. So that showed my leadership again in those qualities, and something I was passionate about, I was able to also teach. So I think those show some good skills outside of school. To put your application at a much more competitive space, I think having personal projects will really put it out there. Personal projects just show your initiative for learning, the certain skill that you're really passionate about or you're interested in, and it just shows that you're able to do the work. And having a final product just shows that, hey, there's something that you wanted to do, you pursued it, and then you had a final product in the end. I would focus on the things that you're certainly interested in. So really start small on these things. So if you're interested in coding, maybe make a simple website that's about you or something that you really like. Or if you're interested in hardware or electrical engineering, maybe make a breadboard circuit with an Arduino, and then you can make something really cool with that. And make sure you start small. If you want to see any inspiration for small coding projects that I've done, trust me, some of my projects are really small. Check out my GitHub in the description, and maybe you can get some inspiration from that. However, if you're in a rush and you're writing your application right now, I would say use a project that you've done in class and talk about how you went through the process of that design and how you iterated that design, and then how you finally made that final product, and talk about like whether your thought process and the struggle within making that design. And I think that'll also really help too. And that's what I did personally. I didn't have a personal project, but I used something from school that I did within my physics class. Now we're moving on to the last section, personal profile. This is where you highlight everything that you've done and that we've talked about recently. So we talked about grades. Grades we won't really talk about in the personal profile that much because that category is taken care of. but we're mainly going to be talking about our extracurricular activities, and we're going to be talking about our personal projects. So in this section, they'll highlight the 5 main extracurricular activities that you do, and then you'll just write that down in the number of hours. And the other section is the short answer section. So they'll ask you maybe a couple short answer questions, and they're really open-ended questions. For example, I have here one of in my personal profile. It's what is important to you and why. And this is a really open-ended question, and you really got to think about context. Like, maybe your dog is important to you, but it's not in the context of your school that you want to get into, right? So what is important to you? Maybe you would focus on something that's social impact that you really care about, something within your school that you really care about, something that in engineering that you really care about, and draw in from your experiences. So you talk about your experiences and why it interests you. And also, I would say there's multiple questions within the personal profile, so try to draw as many experiences as possible in the question. So maybe in that first question you'll highlight what you did in student council, and in the next question you highlight what you did in basketball and what you learned from that, and then the next question talk about that personal project that you did, and then highlight those experiences. Try to get as much as you can and show that you are this person that's capable of doing many cool things. Just try to highlight yourself, the things that you've done. Just pump yourself up, gas yourself up. And lastly, for the personal profile, I would say do not leave this last minute. Spend time on really highlighting the main things, and make sure you get someone to review them, and just check for grammar, and like check if like what you're talking about is really valid and like admissions board would like to see. And my last piece of advice would be, all the things that we talked about were things that we can control, and that's in our power, right? And I've done many applications within university, and like applying to university and scholarships, and there are certain things that you have the control of. So you have control over your grades, because you can control the amount of effort that you put into studying and learning the content. So in an exam, it's like all the preparation that you've done beforehand. So you can control your grades. You can also control your extracurriculars. So you can control your actions of what you do every single day. So you chose to join that club, which helped you get into that program, right? So you can choose what you do in your extracurriculars. You can choose what to do in your personal projects, and you can choose how you write your personal profile. These are things that are in your control, and then you have the power of how you're going to spend your time and what you're going to do. So these things are in your control. Once you send the application out, it's out of your control. So my piece of advice would be, in any application process, do what's within your control, because otherwise you might be disappointed that you didn't do enough. And I've been in those points where I've been happy that I did enough and I got in, and I've been in those points where I was disappointed that I just didn't do enough. Maybe it was that one thing that I didn't do, and I just want to make sure that everybody doesn't live with disappointment in those certain things. So I really want everybody to get in. All right, everybody eats, everybody wins. And to sum it all up, do well grades wise, and try to do as much as you can to try to up your grades, because I know it sucks that grades are that important, but it's really important. Make sure to be involved in extracurricular activities and really tailor it to your degree, or really try to just do things that you're really interested in and be in leadership positions. Number 3 is make that personal project to show initiative in your learning and the things that you're interested in. And number 4, make sure you spend time on your personal profile and really highlight the main things that you've done within your extracurricular activities and your personal projects. I hope you guys got some value out of this video. If you did, make sure you give this a thumbs up and subscribe to see more content. This is the first video of the series UniTalks. Alright, so if you want to see more videos and you want to add suggestions to this series on what I could talk about, academic advising wise, or just about university experiences, let me know. Write it down in the comments below. But until then, see you guys in the next video. Alright, peace.